very good evening and welcome to Let's Talk Politics. I'm your host, Eddie Layne, and of course, this program is dedicated to highlighting the progress and development taking place under the People's Progressive Party Civic Administration. But also, we use the opportunity to debunk, to dispel, and to respond to the lies, misinformation, and the racist, divisive campaign that is being waged by a very desperate opposition, APNU AFC. This evening, I want to spend some time. I am expected to be joined a little later by Dr. Leslie Ramsammy, advisor to the Minister of Health. And this evening, I want to talk a little bit about the questionable actions, if you want, of the opposition that we continue to see on a daily basis. Every single day in this country, we continue to see behaviors that are not becoming of leaders or those who profess to be leaders in our society, particularly on the opposition side in the political sphere. Today, for example, there was this huge call by the opposition, and I don't want anybody to tell me that the call that was made for teachers to strike was made by the Guyana Teachers Union. The Guyana Teachers Union has been hijacked by Coretta MacDonald and the APNU AFC and is now being used as a political tool for the APNU AFC, or the PNC as they are known. So we have a situation where, could you imagine, the GTU, as it was claimed, has called for strike action by teachers in response to the need for them to be vaccinated and to be to protect themselves and to protect the children who they're teaching. But the event, if you want, was promoted exclusively by the PNC, the APNU AFC. Every single one of them were busy sharing and spreading and distributing the Guyana Teachers Union so-called call for strike action. So, and I have a couple of things I want to address. And I'm hoping that Dr. Ramsammy can join me as early as possible so that maybe we can focus a little bit on the vaccination side of the discussion. But I want to deal with the politics, because clearly the actions taken by the Guyana Teachers Union, led by Coretta MacDonald, are political. The action intended to achieve political objective. And I want teachers to understand that this had nothing to do with them. This had absolutely nothing to do with the teachers of this country, and had everything to do with a political attempt, or an attempt to score political points by the APNU AFC. That is simply what it is. Could you imagine, and I know parents will share the same sentiments, could you imagine your kids, our kids, have been out of school for about 17 months or more, close to 2 years, without being involved in formal learning? We as a government would have made the attempts to more or less use the virtual platform to deliver education to students. But the reality is we're in a situation where we don't know when we're going, the world over, going to be out of this pandemic. We don't know. So we have to, and this is as a nation, we have to take decisions. We have to chart a way forward. We have to find innovative ways of navigating the COVID-19 pandemic, like the rest of the world is attempting to do. So the kids have been home for 17 months. 17 months they have been home for or more. And we have outlined, the Minister of Education, the Minister of Education would have outlined a plan as to how schools will be reopened and has put every possible system in place to ensure that students are protected, that teachers are protected, but at the same time, we are in a position to deliver education. There is a massive vaccination program, which we will talk about a little later, both of adults, including teachers, and of adolescents who are preparing to return to secondary school in particular. The Guyana Teachers Union, which has been hijacked, like I said, by Coretta MacDonald and the PNC, have decided to use the COVID-19 pandemic to score political points. So they call this quote-unquote massive, as they call it, strike action by teachers. So what did they realize? Look, let me say this to you. I must commend our teachers. I must commend the teachers in this country, majority of whom have defied that obnoxious call by the PNC and Coretta MacDonald to take strike actions, of teachers to take strike actions. I must commend teachers because we know and we saw, and I have photos I'm going to share with you. I'll probably get the guys to put the photos up to show you. Teachers were in their classrooms today. Teachers were in their classrooms working with their students, and they have defied that call by Coretta MacDonald and the PNC to not get into the classroom. So I must commend the teachers of this country, and the photos you're seeing, and these are only photos of the teachers in Georgetown. This was replicated across this country. So I must first and foremost commend our teachers for not falling into that trap that was created there, or not participate in that event that intended to rob our children who have already suffered for 17 months. So I must commend teachers, and I must say that the PNC and Coretta MacDonald were shocked. They were absolutely shocked today when they recognized that the teachers did not show up, that teachers defied their call to participate in strike action. So what they did, we recognized that they had a couple of teachers, we are not going to bury our heads in the sand. Not 100% of teachers defied the call and went to the school. There were a couple who didn't go because of maybe political reasons. But the majority of our teachers decided that they were going to show up in the schools and they are going to teach the children. The PNC decided to collect a couple of people from all over the place and to make up what they call a quote-unquote crowd, a handful of people, to say that they are protesting. Now, I want to ask the parents of this country, and I want to address you directly. I want you to, in your quiet moments, to think whether the PNC really has the interest of your children at heart. Having recognized that these kids have lost 17 months of schooling. They've had some classes online, but they have lost for the greater part of 17 months. And when the teachers, when we recognize the need that we have to reopen the schools at some point, and we've put the systems in place to ensure that schools can reopen, We've invested in ensuring there are sanitization stations, hand washing stations. We made vaccines available for teachers so that we can reopen the schools, so that your children can return to learning in at least in a school environment. And we know, listen to me, the reality is that when the school was out, it was also adding cost to parents. Many parents had additional cost as a result of having the kids all day home. I'm a parent myself, and I know that there was an additional cost. You got to get more stuff. The kids are home; they're not occupied in school. So, and some parents had to find daycare system. Well, not necessarily daycare, but to have a babysitter in many instances. Those who are working, or to have someone to take care of their kids while they go to work, whom could otherwise be at school, and reduce that cost from them. But outside of that, the fact that our children weren't able to be in the formal school system for 17 months, an attempt is made to put them back into the school. There has been significant learning loss during that period. You have a group of people who claim that they represent your interest, that they're concerned about you and the welfare and the well-being of you and your family and your children, who are encouraging our teachers to not go to school. Those are the kind of leaders you have on that side, who somehow seem to be getting satisfaction out of the fact that our children are further robbed of educational opportunities, under the guise that there is somehow, mandatory vaccination. There is absolutely no mandatory vaccination in this country. There is absolutely no mandatory vaccination. We have made two options available to people. We have made the option available for persons to take the vaccine and to be able to access services quite easily, or with those who are vaccinated, or to produce a negative PCR test. It's as simple as that. You have options. You either take the vaccine or you produce a negative test and you access services. Teachers or public servants or private sector employee or whomever, you have the options. You either take the test or you take the vaccine. So this narrative about it being mandatory is hogwash. It is absolute hogwash. It is designed to mislead and ill-inform and try to create the impression that somehow the government is being dictatorial. Totally oblivious or attempt to deliberately forget that it was the PNC under Valda Lawrence as Minister of Health and under the hand of David Granger as President, who issued a COVID-19 regulation or order which had contained in it provisions, rather, for your homes or properties to be destroyed if you're infected if you contract the virus. That is dictatorship. Not a situation where you have a government who is giving you options to say, here, what? You can either take the vaccine or you can do the negative test because, come on. We have to get out of this, what we're in. And we have to find a way to deal with it. So, again, you have a bunch of people who consistently and continuously running around the place, calling on citizens calling on teachers, calling on public servants, calling on everyone to defy or to not take the vaccine. And I keep saying this, we keep repeating this ever so often. These very people who are trying to encourage you not to take the vaccine have already been vaccinated. They have already been vaccinated. You guys need to ask Coretta McDonald if she's not vaccinated. You need to ask the others who are instigating the protest actions and who are stoking the fire if they are not vaccinated. And the answer will be that they are all vaccinated. They are all vaccinated. But they want to use you as pawns. They want to use you to achieve their narrow political objective. They're not looking out for your interest, you know. They're not looking out for the interest of the people of this country, including their own supporters, including those persons who have been voting for them and who voted for them in the last elections. If these guys were looking out for you, they would have been saying to you, take the vaccine, protect yourself, protect your family, get your children, those who are qualified, those who are 13, teenagers, I think 12 to 18, get them vaccinated. Look, I saw only a few days ago, one of their own MPs, Geeta Chandan, posted a photo of her child being vaccinated and encouraged people to take the vaccine. And then you had, as I usually call them, another certified idiot in Linden, German Figuera, telling people about herbal medicine and not to take vaccine, that there are herbs that can solve, that can remedy and can fix and can cure you from COVID-19. That is the kind of recklessness you have from this bunch. Absolutely reckless. But they are ensuring that they are vaccinated and that their loved ones are vaccinated, but they are encouraging you not to take the vaccine. Look, you have the option. And I'm saying to you, you have the option available. Why not capitalize? The only thing that can help us out of this pandemic, I'll say to you, is we all get vaccinated and adhere to the guidelines that are set. That is to say, to sanitize, to social distance, to wear our masks. So we are not saying to the people of this country that, look, when you get vaccinated, somehow miraculously, COVID is going to disappear. What we've been saying and what we continue to say is that those who are vaccinated are less likely in the first instance to contract the virus. And if you do contract the virus, you're less likely to end up seriously ill and, God forbid, to lose your life. It is as simple as that. That is all that we're saying to the people. Take the vaccine, reduce your risk of becoming infected, and also reduce your risk of getting seriously ill. And nobody is forcing anybody to take the vaccine. I keep repeating this because this is the kind of narrative. This is the kind of narrative that you have coming from the opposition. That look, this government is somehow forcing you to take the vaccine. No, you're not being forced. You take the vaccine, or Once you're given an option, then clearly you can't say it's mandatory. And even if it was mandatory, it is something that you're being told or you're being asked to do to protect you, to protect your loved ones, to protect your friends and those, your colleagues at work. That is the crux of this thing. Take, for example, how many people live. I mean, it's not the best example to make, but I just want to maybe share this with you. Most of us who travel overseas and so on, we know that we have to get a yellow fever vaccine. We've never complained about that. We have never complained about the vaccines that we take the little babies to get. We have never complained about the tetanus injection that some of us take. We have never complained about all the other. Some of us, if we get ill, a flu or something of that sort, we get an injury, and we go to the hospital, we easily take the vaccine. And I can tell you, many of us have not really checked whether, all that you're hearing now about what is contained in the vaccine and all sorts of things. How many of us have checked that before for other vaccines and other? We haven't. We have now the COVID-19 vaccines, where there is a world of information on the World Wide Web of everything about the vaccine, so we can be easily educated about the contents and everything of the vaccine. But we still have a few hustlers in the PNC who are vaccinated trying to mislead us. As a country, as citizens, we have a responsibility. I'm not going to even speak to the leaders or the so-called leaders in the PNC as yet. I'll address that. But we have a responsibility. A responsibility to protect ourselves in the first instance. To protect our families, our friends, our colleagues, our children. The vaccines have been scientifically proven to help us to pull out of this pandemic. So we can't be reckless, brothers and sisters. We have to be responsible. We have to. And those who profess themselves to be leaders also have a responsibility. And that responsibility is to ensure that they encourage you to get vaccinated so that you can protect yourself, you can protect your loved ones, you can protect your colleagues, your friends, your neighbors, and that together we can build the kind of defense system, if you want, to fight off this pandemic and to pull out of this. The economic loss as a result of this pandemic on individuals, communities, businesses, and the country and countries at large, it's been tremendous. It's been tremendous. All of us want our country and our world to return to some level of normalcy. And we can only do that if we are responsible and act responsibly and take the course of action that science has confirmed as the best course of action. That is to be vaccinated. That is to be vaccinated. So again, the PNC, the APNU, AFC, their intention is simply to score political points. Supporting the hijacked GTU, and I'm hearing whispers of a lot of teachers wanting to pull out of the GTU as a result of the political positions that this organization is taking. This organization was supposed to be representing the interest of workers, but it was hijacked by Coretta McDonald and the PNC like they did with the Guyana Public Service Union. You will recall that the Guyana Public Service Union had at one point became an arm of the PNC, was taking political stance as recent as the elections that the PNC was attempting to rig. As recent as the elections that the PNC was attempting to rig, you had the GPSU taking political stance and not representing the interest of public servants. It is the exact thing you're having now, where Coretta MacDonald hijacked the GTU with an attempt to make the GTU take political stance and to become a political arm or an arm of the PNC. That is what is happening. So this is not about teachers. This is not about your interest. This is not about the children whose lives you are expected to transform when you engage with them in the classroom. This is not about the parents who want their children to get an education. This is not about in the interest of developing the kind of human resource capacity that our country needs for the future, the very near future that is. This is not about achieving or to reduce the levels of illiteracy in our country and to ensure that children have equal access and adequate access to education. This is about downright scoring political points for the PNC. It has nothing to do with your children. It has nothing to do with you as parents. It has nothing to do with teachers. But it has everything to do with the PNC and their political objective and their political agenda. So I'm happy that teachers have seen right through this naked attempt at politicizing a pandemic, this naked attempt at scoring political points when people's health, people's lives, people's well-being are involved and are at stake. I'm happy that every day the citizens of this country are seeing through and through this attempt to politicize a pandemic. I believe Dr. Ramsammy is about to join me. And I'm going to use the board to talk about, the yes. I think Dr. Ramsammy, Doc, I know you're out, you're at the airport, and I asked you to join me. I know you have made the attempt to join me this evening, Dr. Ramsammy. So good evening and welcome to Let's Talk Politics.
Good evening, Eddie, and good evening, everyone.
Doc, I'm talking about this political position, this attempt by Coretta MacDonald, who seems to have hijacked the Guyana Teachers Union and is using the Guyana Teachers Union to score political points, to attempt to deny and to prevent the children of this country from accessing education, something that is a fundamental human right for them. And today we saw the attempt to call strike actions where Coretta MacDonald trying to use the GTU, the Guyana Teachers Union, to score political points for the PNC. Luckily, teachers have defied that call for strike action, and just a handful of them showing up. Dr. Ramsammy, I'll bring you in this first before we have some discussions on the vaccines.
Okay. Eddie, thank you very much. I am disappointed that the Guyana Teachers Union would take the position it does. However, I'm not shocked that they did take the position because they have politicized a public health issue. Let me say this, that the vaccines have been proven to be safe. The vaccines have proven to protect people. This pandemic has now become largely a pandemic of the unvaccinated. Presently, there are 100 people in our COVID hospital. There are 40 people in the ICU. All are unvaccinated. And so we don't need more evidence. The science is clear. Mr. Mr. Figura in Region 9, in Region 10, has said that people could use herbal medicine. There is no science to support that. And in that respect, Miss Dr. Karen Cummings, another APNU AFC MP, has come out in full support of this. And therefore, for Ms. McDonald and us to be misrepresenting the facts, telling the people untruths, openly lying to people, is using people's lives as collateral damage in their effort to promote a political cause. And I think that is reprehensible. Um, so, having said that, let me say thank you and express our gratitude to the teachers, the parents who have ignored the call by the Guyana Teachers Union. And I hope that as time goes, more teachers, more parents, and we will have a return to in-person schooling. Um, it's in the interest of all of our children. Um, Let me just say this, that we have had 3 school years affected so far. 2019-2020 school year was prematurely ended by COVID-19, totally lost. And now 2021-22 is being impacted. This has led to learning loss for all of our children. But the children that are of lesser means will have learning losses that will impact for the rest of their lives. And for people like Coretta McDonald to, instead of working education, instead of working to make sure that we bring our children out and resume in-person schooling, they are in fact pursuing a political path using people's lives as collateral damage. And so I hope that we all reject them.
Dr. Ramsammy, quickly before you run, I wanted to ask you one other question, and that has to do with this claim that we're hearing from the opposition about mandatory vaccination, as though the government is somehow imposing on them. And I made the point earlier that people have options.
The,
What do you make of this?
the
Clearly, it
government of
might be
Guyana has
positive.
not, we do not have a mandatory vaccine policy. What we have is giving people a choice. You either get vaccinated or you have a choice to present a negative PCR results. So people do have a choice. This thing about my body, my choice, yes, you have a choice, but the choice must not be one of putting other people's lives in danger. When people say to me that uh, that is their fundamental right, we all have conditional rights. Um, Listen, if you want to leave the country right now, you are free to go and to go take a plane to leave the country. But if you don't have a passport, you can't travel. So these are that's just one example. of how individuals are conditional, because no individual could jeopardize the welfare of another. And when we don't take vaccine, we jeopardize the population at large. Right? You must also choose other things. Participate in regular life in a country. So I hope that's clear. We're saying to
I think
people,
I think we've lost.
yes,
Oh,
come the 10 and not. That is irresponsible and reckless.
thank you very much, Dr. Ramsamy, for joining me. I know you have some bad connections there, and you're involved in another meeting, so I don't want to keep you any longer from your engagement. So thanks again for joining me this evening to quickly share from a medical perspective um, this entire process. So clearly, you heard Dr. Ramsamy putting it into perspective, and I like the example that he used. That if, in terms of traveling, the fact of the matter is we can remove all of that, and we can speak to one thing, one issue we can speak to, and that issue really is the vaccines will help you or put you in a better position as it relates to contracting the virus. You're less likely, and if you do, God forbid, you are not, or you're less likely to get seriously ill, and in some instances, God forbid, to lose your life. That is the fundamental purpose. This is about really protecting you and your families. You don't have a government that don't concern about you. A government that decides that, okay, we're going to take the vaccine, we're going to protect ourselves, and we're going to allow you to remain locked down in your homes for however long. No. You have a government that is responsible, that recognizes the need to ensure that systems are in place, that the citizens are protected. And it's in that vein, it is in that context, we've made the efforts we made to procure adequate vaccines for the people of this country. And I want to say to you, in wrapping this program, I want to encourage you, the citizens of this country, to call the PNC out, to call Coretta McDonald out, to call all of them out who are encouraging you not to take the vaccines and to defy, every possible attempt that we are making to protect you and your family and to protect the people of this country. To call them out, to ask them if they're vaccinated, and to ask them why they're not bringing their relatives and their friends and their loved ones out to join you. They're not going to do that because they want to protect them, but they want to set you up. That is what the PNC wants to do. The PNC wants to set you up and encourage you not to get vaccinated so that when you get sick and if you die, they can blame it on the PPP. That is the objective. These guys want to set you up to say to you, don't take the vaccine. If you contract COVID and you die, let's blame the PPP. They score political points. You lose your life, or your loved ones will lose you, or you lose a loved one or a friend or a colleague. That's the logic of the PNC. Get you out there, don't take the vaccine, protest, contract the virus, so we can blame the PPP to say the PPP can't manage the pandemic. Look how many people dying. Look how many people becoming infected. That is what these guys want. It's laying naked and bare in front of you. Do the math. If they're vaccinated to protect themselves, and they're encouraging you not to get vaccinated and encouraging you to go out on the streets and protest, it's because their objective is to get you infected so that they can blame the PPP. So I want you to be smart. Think it through. And you will realize that these guys don't have your interest at heart. I want to encourage you, and I want to commend again the teachers of this country for defying that call of the PNC and the hijacked GTU, for defying that call and to show up today and to continue to show up to teach the children of this country. You have a responsibility, and I encourage you to continue to take up that responsibility of teaching our children. And those of you who are not vaccinated teachers, I want to encourage you. Look, you have nothing to lose here. This is to protect you. Don't allow politicians on that side who are trying to encourage you to score political points to use you. Get vaccinated or take your PCR test and go and do your job. Mold those young minds. They are the future leaders. They're going to look back 10, 15, 20 years from now and say, during the time of that pandemic, Sir X or Miss Y ensured he or she turned out to teach me and mold me into the leader I am today. Think about it. And don't allow these guys to set you up. I want to thank you very much again for joining me this evening on tonight's program. And I want to say to our teachers, to our public servants, and to our citizens at large, don't allow the PNC to use you as political pawns. You're smart. Those of you who are not vaccinated, I encourage you to take your vaccines. I did, and I know everybody else that I know would have taken their vaccines. I encourage you to do the same to protect yourself, your family, your colleagues, and your loved ones. Have a blessed rest of the evening, and thank you so much for being part of this program. Until tomorrow, have a good rest of the evening. Bye for now.